Everyone asks me if the Submariner is the best Rolex investment. We pulled 15 years of sales data to find out, and yes, new tariffs are absolutely affecting prices. Hi, I'm Paul Altieri, founder and CEO of Bob's Watches. And for decades, the Rolex Submariner has been seen as the flagship in the Rolex world. It's the icon. It's the one watch that defined the entire category. It's also one of my personal favorites. I bought my first Submariner decades ago, and I still wear one almost every day. But the personal feelings don't drive the market. Data does. In today's pre-owned market, with all the talk and tariffs and low inventory, does the sub still hold that title? We're going to dig into our numbers to validate buying decisions and find out what's really happening with the Submariner market in 2025. Why the Submariner? Well, why now? It's because our used Rolex Submariner watches have always been one of our absolute best-selling collection models. In our 15 years of business, the Sub is the #2 most popular collection in terms of total sales volume. Think about that. Out of every watch we sell, the Submariner family is consistently #2. People always ask what #1 is, but that's a video for another day. Today, we're going to talk about the Sub. The consistency of Submariner sales is why we use it as a benchmark, but 2025 has thrown us a few curveballs. We've seen significant new tariff on luxury goods, and as a CEO which deals with global trade every single day, I can tell you these aren't just headlines. They have real-world impacts. They increase the cost of new watches, which in turn puts upward pressure on the pre-owned Rolex market and the price. We're always analyzing the data here at Bob's, and we too have been curious to see how this incredible, resilient model will hold up against all these new economic forces. Okay, let's get into the hard data, starting with the Submariner collection as a whole. First, we look at sales volume over the 15 years. You can see the trends clearly, some dips, some surges, followed by market events. You can see the steady climb, a dip after 2008 financial crisis, and then a long period of growth. But the baseline demand is always strong. It's the foundation of the pre-owned market. Now, this graph everyone wants to see, the average price curve. Before 2020, we saw a healthy, steady appreciation. This is the classic blue chip performance we all came to expect. Then came 2020 to 2022, steel sports surge era. The Submariner trajectory became the benchmark for the entire luxury watch market. It peaked at an average price of about $18,900 in 2022. These were prices that seemed absolutely impossible just a few years earlier. The market was in a frenzy. So what goes up fast must eventually come down. In 2022, we entered the correction phase. You can see the prices drop. This is when the headlines about the watch market crash started. But here's the 2025 story. The market is more complex. We saw prices peak again in February and June of 2025, followed by a pullback in the second half of the year. However, as of today, it's creeping upward again. One positive we're seeing is that it hasn't had the extreme volatile spikes of some of the other models. This shows a more stable, mature market. Now, what about all these tariffs? We saw an initial pullback in the market, followed by a lot of fluctuation. But here's the key fact. We are still seeing year-over-year growth. In fact, the Submariner is trending higher compared to last year. That shows true resilience. Now, the Submariner is big family. Let's dig deeper into the specific reference numbers. This graph shows our most popular references over the last 15 years in terms of total volume. This is based on our own sales data. 5-digit models hold the #1 and #3 spot, but the 6-digit references are gaining popularity in recent years, as you can see, with the #2 bestseller. But let's focus on the last 2 years. Which models are people buying right now? First, we have the Rolex 126610 LV, the ceramic Starbucks. This one is interesting. As a special model released in 2020, that green bezel carries a premium and the demand is climbing back fast, especially with tariffs making new ones even harder to get. It saw a higher peak and a steeper correction. It is currently recovering and sales aren't slowing anytime soon. In 2024, the average order value was $15,155. Fast forward to 2025 and we have seen these references listed on our site between $15,500 with the black bezel to $16,500 with the green bezel. That second top seller of recent sales is the Rolex 16610, the classic 5-digit. This is a fascinating story because it's a vintage or neo-vintage model. Its price was more stable. It didn't surge as hard, but it also didn't drop as hard. This is the choice of purists, and its value retention is based more on condition and originality, not market hype. In 2010, our AOV for this model was around $3,800. Fast forward to 2025, and we now see the AOV of around $11,500. I sometimes look back and I wish I held some of these models to sell later. And third, the Rolex 16610 LN. This was the workhorse ceramic sub for a decade. It was the last generation of the pre-ceramic 40mm Submariner date with an aluminum bezel insert. Caliber 3135, produced 1988 to 2010. Look at that price curve. It's followed the market perfectly, but its value retention is incredible. It's a rock solid piece. To put this in perspective, let's go back to 2020 when the AOV was around $14,000 and compare that to its current value of $16,400. That's an appreciation of about $2,400 in just 5 years. So after all the data, let's go back to the original question. Is the Submariner the best Rolex to invest in? As a CEO who reads this data every day, my answer is yes. The data points to a yes. The sub will always be the sub. And look at the data. Its resilience is unmatched. The dip was short-lived and was a healthy, necessary response to an unsustainable correction. I have vintage Submariners in my personal collection that I'll never sell, and they are worth 20 times what I paid for them 25 years ago. This watch has proven itself for 70 years. Now that's the data. Here's my personal advice. I always tell people to invest in what they truly like. If you buy a watch only as an investment, you might be disappointed. It may turn out to be a bad choice, which in this case, I don't think it will be, but at least you'll love it. You'll wear it, and that counts for something. But if I had to pick one particular sub to invest in right now, I'd look for a mint condition 5-digit reference, like the Submariner 16610 with box and papers. They aren't in production anymore, and their appeal is timeless. But with any model, stay focused on condition and reference. Pricing may fluctuate, but the best models in the best condition will always hold their value. So what's the takeaway? The Submariner remains among the strongest, most stable, and most desirable Rolex reference you can own. The data tells a powerful story and makes the case that this is a true classic that will always be cherished by collectors for years to come. For more details on every Rolex collection, check out a 15-year study on Bob's watches. It's a comprehensive report, and the link is right in the description. Thank you for watching. We're going to be doing more of these, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next market update.